On the comic book page, anything is possible. The world can be colorful, the powers can be incredible, and everybody can be a hot piece of ass. For more than 20 years now, the big screen has lived up to the small panels. For Marvel, the most profitable movie franchise ever, the boom started in 2000. X-Men was not only the first Marvel movie to gross over $250 million, but it was also the first to convincingly render the uncanny into reality. DC had already made a man fly. X-Men made superpowers possible for Marvel. 2 years later, Spider-Man swung onto the big screen, $825 million. And then they just kept on doing it, and we kept on watching it. Now it seems we are somewhere near the end of the Cape craze. With the declining quality of the MCU and The Flash being the biggest comic book movie bomb ever, audiences are growing tired of superhero movies, or at least mediocre ones. If the Marvel track record has gotten worse, it's nowhere near as bad as it used to be. Before the year 2000, almost every Marvel movie was bad. They either lost money, went straight to video, or were just not released. In between the first Marvel comic and X-Men, there were 19 live-action Marvel movies. Are any of them good? CGI barely existed, so how did they adapt the amazing, the incredible, and the fantastic when the small budgets couldn't live up to the comic book bigness? This is every Marvel movie, released before the year 2000. I'll be picking them out and ranking them from worst to best. All of these movies came out before Marvel had its own production company, when Stan Lee would license his properties to any company brave enough to try. These are the movies that preceded Kevin Feige's reign of terror, the $50 billion brand, and Martin Scorsese's worst nightmare. Spider-Man: The Dragon's Challenge is the third entry in the first Spider-Man trilogy, a trilogy that had yet to figure out Spider-Man poses. In these posters, each limb has its own agenda. They look like the result of putting Spider-Man poster as a prompt in a free AI image generator. Spider-Man: The Dragon's Challenge is the worst Spider-Man movie of all time. It is so boring. The best Spider-Man stories are the ones that dig into the conflict between Spider-Man's life and Peter Parker's life. In The Dragon's Challenge, there are no Peter Parker problems. There is one Spider-Man problem, and it is keeping J. Jonah Jameson's friend, a politician from Hong Kong, alive. The guy does spit some wisdom, though.
One can only trust whom one trusts.
The villain who's trying to assassinate him is not part of Spider-Man's huge roster of unique villains. That would be interesting. Instead, it's some old guy. At least his motivation for being bad is on par with Thanos.
And take over as Minister of Industrial Development, and I will lose the contract to build the steel mill.
They clearly wanted to make a Spider-Man movie in Hong Kong, and then tried to whip up a script to make that possible. The last third of the movie is just a travel vlog. Peter Parker and friends walk around and look at people on the streets of Hong Kong. The best part of this movie is the funky music that plays when Spider-Man shows up. Music that'll go on forever because of the endless build-up to each action scene. Spider-Man will sneak around for 10 minutes, punch a guy once, then run away. And that's it. That's the entire action scene. It's too bad that the Stooge knows Spider-Man's only weakness: bullets. I've never wanted to be Spider-Man more. Howard the Duck is part of Hollywood's rich tradition of taking something silly or childish, making it say fuck, and then calling that a comedy. It's been done 1,000 times, this time with a duck. It felt illegal to watch this, not because I pirated it, but because on this planet there's a sick Hollywood fuck who put boobs on an animatronic duck. Imagine making that prop. How did this get funded? I'm sure we all know George Lucas's second movie, American Graffiti. It was a smash hit. The movie was written by George Lucas, Willard Huyck, and Gloria Katz. It gave George the credibility to convince 20th Century Fox to fund his next project. Cut to 12 years and $2 billion franchises later, and George is looking for a new movie to produce.
After American Graffiti, George had said that he had found this comic book about a duck from outer space that lands in Cleveland. And he said it was just, he thought it was very funny.
So he hired his writing partners to write, direct, and produce Howard the Duck. The worst part about this comedy is the comedy isn't funny.
Questions? Yeah. Where are my pants?
The movie has 2 jokes. 1, duck puns, and 2, sex.
This is not what you think. We're just very good friends.
The MCU is infamously self-aware, but Howard the Duck makes an Ant-Man sequel seem like an old Japanese drama about the human condition. Every line is a sarcastic one-liner about what just happened.
He must hate the chili.
Howard the Duck is still one of the biggest flops ever. I guess you could say its success was dead in the water. In this reboot, Captain America is always in the midst of considering if life is fundamentally meaningless.
But she sure did love the red, white, and blue.
In every scene he's in, he'll be staring into the depths of the universe. Somebody please check in on him. I don't think he's doing too good. I don't think he's depressed because he lost his true love. It's because his costume looks like it's made out of Babybel wrapper. I'm sure that if you peeled back his costume, it'd reveal that Steve Rogers is made of soft cheese. At least he doesn't look like Red Skull, whose face is a ball of old gum. The only way I can convey the nuances of this movie's storytelling is by describing the climactic fight scene. Here, Red Skull shoots his gun in the air, Captain America runs towards him, throws his shield, misses. Red Skull's daughter shoots Captain America in the shoulder. Captain America's girlfriend pushes her down. They then sit next to each other for a bit. Then Red Skull shoots around her. Somebody, please, shoot someone correctly, like me. This movie does have the most epic fake-out handshake ever.
I'd like you to meet Richard Ehrlich. He's a special observer sent by President Roosevelt.
Oh, remarkable work, Dr. Naselli. Congratulations.
Captain America was made by the low-budget studio Cannon Films, who had the right to Captain America along with Spider-Man for a few years, giving us a trailer for a Spidey movie that got cancelled a few years before this. Captain America was greenlit in an attempt to recreate the success of Tim Burton's Batman. It was initially going to play in theaters, but the movie ended up so bad that they shelved it for a few years before going straight to video. Punisher is a movie where a lot of guys get killed, whether it be the Punisher killing bad guys or bad guys killing other bad guys. It is an action movie without problem solving, emotional stakes, or fun. Just pew 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 pew. The Punisher himself is played by Dolph Lundgren, who gives one of the least committed performances I've ever seen, emulating your dad after a long day at the office.
If you're guilty, you're dead.
He's got one of the most guttural voices out there.
Where is the dope coming into?
Which he uses to do Batman speeches while he meditates nude.
I ask him if what I'm doing is right or wrong. I'm still waiting for an answer.
And until I get one, I'll be out here.
I thought I was the only one who did that. The expression on his face changes once in the entire movie. Despite the Punisher always being half asleep, they still try to make him a cool action hero, with one-liners that are always more silly than badass.
I've got something to say. Sayonara.
The most badass thing that happens in this movie is when this guy knocks a bad guy out and then eats his pizza.
Hey man, I got the pizza.
The best part of The Punisher is not the Punisher, but the mobster stooges, who give us a few beautiful comedic moments.
Fuck you. Fuck you. Fuck you.
What?
Everything's okay?
Yeah.
Initially planned to be shown in theaters, the movie went straight to video.
First we consolidate, and then we obliterate.
And then we masturbate. Every man in this movie has got a mustache. Doctor Strange, Wong, the old mentor guy, this doctor. I wouldn't be surprised if the women had mustaches too. What the women do have is a raging desire for Doctor Strange, but only very suddenly an hour into the movie.
I am still a woman, and the man attracted me.
The first hour is one of the most mundane things I've ever seen. There's a point where Doctor Strange looks through some files and then starts watching TV. There is as much dead time as possible. If the characters are going somewhere, you will sit through their entire trip. The movie will unapologetically, almost diabolically, give you the same information again and again. The same flashback plays 5 times. Luckily for my attention span, suddenly everybody becomes horny. Everybody wants some Sorcerer Supreme in their diet, even if they've barely interacted beforehand.
Well, are you gonna let me in?
Maybe.
When Doctor Strange is about to get it on with this girl, the villain, Morgan Le Fay, shows up, knocks the girl out, says, "Do me instead," and Doctor Strange is like, okay, then goes into the dark dimension with her. He's fully ready to become dead evil until Morgan shows him a dead body. It takes him some time to figure out that there's something unethical about that.
Reign with me, Stephen, on all the thrones of men forever.
No.
Doctor Strange himself doesn't have a personality. He is a blank mannequin with no attributes other than a deep voice.
He should see the doctor in charge.
I am the doctor in charge.
He becomes Doctor Strange because his dad was Doctor Strange.
Your father and I both recognized it when you were born.
Once again, the filmmakers haven't even bothered to look at the cover of a comic.
Your barriers have fallen. You cannot stop me now.
I have cast you out before.
The best fight scene of the movie is when Morgan Le Fay goes invisible, possesses the body of a girl,
You miscalculated this time, old man.
to then push an old wizard off a bridge. A shocking moment that is made more horrifying by the reaction of a passing civilian who conveys some heartbreaking words of despair.
Oh no.
As much as I love the janky magic ray special effects, the most magical part of Doctor Strange is these sick guitar licks. Like many of these movies, this isn't a movie. It's a TV movie, airing on CBS just like Spider-Man and The Incredible Hulk. Except this one never got picked up. Why it didn't is a mystery so confusing even Benedict Cumberbatch couldn't figure it out.
First attend to the body. Isn't that what you always taught me?
Nick Fury, agent of S.H.I.E.L.D., introduces us to rich and complex characters, including the naive recruit.
Working alongside a legend such as yourself really promises to be quite a thrill.
The hot badass girl.
Head nurse to surgeon. Operation over. Patient sedated.
And of course, the manly veteran. Nick Fury, played by David Hasselhoff, is the manliest man in the manosphere.
All right.
Let's go kick some Hydra butt.
He is pulled out of retirement for one last job, direct orders from the President of the United States.
So these orders come from the President himself?
President.
This movie has every cliche. It's what you've seen before, overplayed to an unbearable degree.
There's nothing you can do.
There's one possibility, but it's such a long shot.
I built my reputation on long shots.
Every line that Nick Fury says is a quip.
Tell me, how's Hydra's dental plan?
After running for 5 seasons, The Incredible Hulk show was cancelled in 1982. Over the next decade, 3 movies were produced. This is the last one. Bill Bixby plays David Banner. Yeah, you heard me right. David Banner. Why not Bruce Banner? Homophobia. But we'll get to that later. For now, let's talk about Bixby, because he is the first actor to give a Marvel comic book character life. He is so damn good at delivering lines with gravity.
Now I have a mutation near the rage center of my brain. And during moments of anger or fear, it secretes a hormone and I become a mutant thing. A beast until that rage ends.
This movie follows David, on the run as always, now working as a janitor at a super secret lab. That way he can be sneaky by spending the nights looking for a cure to his Hulkness. It also stars former Miss America Elizabeth Grayson as Yasmin, another sudden love interest. She's a spy, which makes for a few fun disguise switches. The best one is when they threaten a salesman by pretending to be a ditzy married couple.
Ah, the wife. Get in, darling.
Oh, can you tell us the way?
The way? The way to Dr. Pratt and his wife.
Hello, Bren. Tell us where the doctor is or die.
The rest of the movie is the usual pre-2000s Marvel sedative. We all watch superhero movies to see an old couple eating breakfast. Spoilers, the title gives away the end. The Hulk is dead. He falls from an exploding plane. It isn't a satisfying ending because it wasn't meant to be. A follow-up movie, The Revenge of the Incredible Hulk, was planned then discarded because this one got low ratings, making this the final appearance of David and his green Goliath. There are 3 other official old Hulk movies. While the other sequels have superhero guest stars Thor and Daredevil, this one doesn't. Originally Iron Man was supposed to be in this one, which would have been fun to see how that would have even been possible on a TV budget. Another version of the movie had She-Hulk, played by Bridget Nielsen, who did promo photos for another movie that was canned. A lot of cancelled movies here. So why David and not Bruce?
When I found out that they were changing the name from Bruce Banner to David Banner, I asked the logical question, why are you doing that? His name is supposed to be Bruce. And some genius at the network said, oh no, Stan, Bruce makes him sound homosexual. It sounds gay.
That's incredible.
When Stan Lee and Steve Ditko created Spider-Man, they made him the hero with real problems. In this 1977 TV pilot, the only attempt to make Peter Parker endearing is by giving him prescription medication.
Peter, did you take your allergy pills?
Sometimes he sneezes.
I'm sorry, I forgot my allergy pills.
He's just like me, meditating nude and sneezing, my 2 favorite activities. This Spider-Man also butchers the origin story.
What was that?
Instead of becoming Spider-Man out of guilt and moral obligation, he becomes a superhero because I don't actually know why. Because why not become a superhero? Peter Parker is played by Nicholas Hammond, whose performance is Luke Skywalker.
But I was going into Toshi Station to pick up some power converters.
Why'd you scare him off? I need those condensers.
Would you believe me if I told you this movie's boring? Peter will climb up a wall, then once he gets to the top, have a flashback of himself climbing up that wall. Then at the end of the flashback, there'll be a flashback of when he had a flashback of when he climbed up that wall. Again, the fight scenes have more standing around than fighting. It is cool the one time they actually fight though.
Kill him.
But the wall crawling in this movie is the goofiest thing I've ever seen. They didn't figure out that to make wall crawling look cool, the actor's body has to be really close to the wall, with a low center of gravity like, what's the animal that does that again? Oh yeah, a spider. So, yeah. I don't know. I think I'm starting to like these climbing scenes. No particular reason, it's just, that's spider booty. What? I wasn't looking, I swear. Of course, the villain isn't Sandman, Mysterio, or even The Wall, but a self-help guru.
You deserve to be the miserable fools you are, because you'll never be happy by trying to be happy.
Who brainwashes respectable people into doing his bidding.
Those were all respectable people, not some junky hoods.
Junky hoods? You know, it isn't a very good Spider-Man movie, but it is a fascinating documentary on the way people talked in the 70s.
One dose of that stuff and it's goodbye, Charlie.
And get these rubbernecks out of here!
Spider-Man's web shooters have a trigger and he even uses it here, but he still shoots his webs like this. There was probably a producer that was like, this is gay. Blade is just a more stylish version of the Punisher. It's about an emotionless tough guy who's killing bad guys. It doesn't mean anything. There is no substance, message, or themes, just explicit gore and sexual overtones. Exploding heads, melting vampires, and all. It's like they made the ultimate R-rated movie, which got really boring after a while because the movie told its empty premise in such a serious and repetitive way. Then this happened. If the entire movie were like this, then I'd proudly put Blade in the top spot. Wesley Snipes as Blade is one of the few good parts.
There are worse things out tonight than vampires.
Like what?
Like me.
For the first time, he's a superhero who looks and talks like he's been pulled out of a comic book.
Thought I might try fire for a change.
Even if the story is a stupid mess, the world design is undeniably stylish, from the weapons to the mansions to the cars. Other than the Hulk movies, this is the only successful Marvel movie before 2000. With a $45 million budget, it made $131 million. Generation X is based on the X-Men spin-off comic Generation X. It features all the most boring mutants. It does do a better job at adapting the original X-Men premise than all of the future movies. A group of marginalized teenagers who embrace their individuality through their powers. It was written by Eric Blackney, creator of the 21 Jump Street TV show, which makes sense since the teenager scenes are fun.
Boom, ping, bing!
They really captured the teenage experience.
Are you really gonna take off?
Uh-huh. Home sucks, man. Freedom rocks.
The villain is a guy doing a Jim Carrey impression.
Guys, I'm feeling seriously omnipotent!
He is the most annoying character ever.
I've had a butter in your little hands. Would you like butter?
I miss boring mobsters. The Xavier Institute here is Hatley Castle, the same shooting location as all of the future X-Men movies. The 1977 Captain America completely ignores the comic book origin. Imagine reading a comic book before making a Captain America movie. What are they, nerds? Instead of patriotic scrawny kid turned muscle soldier in World War II, Steve Rogers is an ex-Marine who just wants to hit the road and paint.
Now I just want to get out on the road, look at the faces of America,
Maybe get some down on canvas.
He doesn't willingly take the super steroid to serve his country, instead it's injected into him while he's unconscious. He also starts out as a beefcake and then remains a beefcake. His virtuous personality is substituted for a cool drifter.
Oh, I've been coming down the coast slow and easy, you know, kicking back.
Pretty mellow set of wheels.
Yeah.
His acting reminds me of this clip.
Your dog just died.
He's got big biceps, a big truck, and he reads each line as cool as possible.
But he was my dad and I loved him. And then one day he was gone. And all I had left was a letter from the president, a man I didn't even know.
Trust me, director, I've got an idea for this one. I'll do this line, cool.
American ideal. It's a little tough to find these days, isn't it?
Maybe, you know what? Let's try something different this time. Maybe I could say it cool.
Yeah, well, that was a while ago.
You still ride?
Yeah, just for the fun of it now.
There's a fight scene in a slaughterhouse, the perfect hiding place for Steve as he can blend in perfectly with the other hunks of meat. Just like usual, we've got ourselves a one-dimensional love interest and villain.
Steve, this is Dr. Wendy Day, who's in charge of flag research now. Steve Rogers. I won't be a minute.
Hi.
Hi.
Steve Rogers spends the entire movie deciding if he's going to become Captain America.
I'll think about it. I just don't want to get involved.
Made up your mind yet?
You'll be the first to know.
Then when he finally does, we are treated to the greatest costume reveal of all time.
How do you like it, Simon?
Before you laugh, there is an excuse for the costume looking so silly. Road safety.
The Highway Patrol said that we had to be able to see through it. Otherwise, it wouldn't put it on the motorcycle. And I had to have a helmet with the wings, and I couldn't wear the cowl because they wouldn't allow that because I had to have something for safety aspects of that.
He becomes Captain America because his dad was Captain America.
They coined a nickname for him. Captain America.
Captain America?
The girls, where are they?
In a room under number 2 stack. They're all right.
The little shake. The Trial of the Incredible Hulk answers the most controversial question in comics. If Bruce Banner has a beard, does the Hulk have a beard? No. Huh. The Trial of the Incredible Hulk is deceptively not a courtroom drama. There is one scene in a courtroom and it's all a dream. That scene does have the first ever Stan Lee cameo. This movie also features guest superhero Daredevil and Kingpin played by Gimli.
They will join their networks with mine.
Who is very much a Bond villain. He sits in a ridiculously noisy spinny chair, escapes at the end in an ambiguous and very slow air vehicle, and holds meetings with crime bosses. It also has the greatest one-liners in cinema.
Be very good. Read a book.
You know, it's hard to know what to think when the henchman, who I'm completely convinced is Jeff Bezos in a wig, confesses his love for the damsel in distress.
I'm nervous, but I try to smile without looking foolish.
The name of every person who made this movie sounds like a fake old-timey name. Directed by John English and Elmer Clifton, starring Dick Purcell as Captain America and Lorna Gray as Gail Richards. This is not technically a movie, but a 15-part, 20-minute each serial that played in theaters back in 1944. In the middle of World War II, just 3 years after the character of Captain America was created. Unlike the comic, this movie doesn't have any Nazis. The villain is a monocle-bearing gentleman who uses a beetle to hypnotize people.
For the short time you have to live, your mind is completely under my control.
He has exactly the same plan as in Spider-Man. Brainwash some respectable citizens into becoming junkie hoods. His end goal is acquiring a weapon of mass destruction called a thermal-dynamic vibration agent.
That could be used by me as a powerful weapon of destruction.
But that name is too long, so they need something more snappy to refer to this evil device. How about a thermal exploder? No. Vibration machine? No, too long. How about vibrator?
The Scarab wants the plans of the thermodynamic vibration engine which you have invented.
How did you find out about my vibrator?
I want to know more about the vibrator.
Mr. Merritt and Mr. Norden are here to witness your demonstration of the vibrator.
Lucky for us, Captain America is on the case, here to make sure the vibrator is never used.
The vibrator! Get out, I'll try to stop it.
And so is his alter ego, Grant Gardner. Yeah, as well as having a different name, he also doesn't have a shield. Instead, he carries a much more reliable weapon. And unlike his MCU counterpart, he isn't scared to use it.
Buck, stop! You're gonna kill someone.
This contains the purple death. Drop that gun or we'll all die.
Some superheroes consider it wrong to kill. Batman does not kill. Spider-Man does not kill. This Captain America not only does kill, but he will kill even if it's inconvenient.
Stop it. There are 2 bullets left.
Yes.
All of the fight scenes are like when you mash the punch button on the controller. Captain America will shoot you, and if he doesn't have a gun, he will punch you 50 times. Despite the repetitive fight scenes, this 4-hour serial does have some genuine mystery and impressive explosions. It is somewhat entertaining, which makes it an impeccable masterpiece when comparing it to the other old Marvel movies.
The stolen plans of the vibrator were destroyed, along with the only 2 criminals who knew how to operate it.
Cap is back, and this time he's defending the elderly. This is a much better movie than the first, mostly because Captain America is in the whole movie, giving us some brutal fight scenes. When he's not a superhero, he's an artist on the road, traveling around with his cat. His adversary is one of the best Marvel villains yet, including the modern ones. Christopher Lee playing terrorist Miguel.
And it seems that Professor Ilson needs another reminder of the consequences.
And he's got an evil device that's more interesting than a bomb or even a vibrator, a drug that makes people age fast.
You are at this moment breathing a gas that causes extreme rapid aging in humans.
I'd feel bad for them if they knew how to read. The only person more confused than these people is the movie's music supervisor. This is the music that plays during a drug deal scene. After paragliding on the American flag for 15 minutes, Captain America gives Miguel a taste of his own medicine. And then Captain America's character arc is complete, as he goes from defender of the elderly to abuser. I think every live-action Spider-Man reboot has its own element that is the strongest of all of them. The Raimi movies have the best writing and humor, the Amazing movies have got the best suit and web-slinging, the MCU movies have the best casting and characterization, and the 70s movies have the best. Spider-Man Strikes Back is the best of the 70s trilogy because I stayed awake during it. In this one, Spider-Man goes to Hollywood. You can tell that the filmmakers had a lot more fun making it. It's actually creative with the stunts and fight scenes. Spider-Man hangs off a helicopter. There's a Mexican standoff.
I don't know how you did it, but Angel doesn't fail twice.
There has to be a first time for everything.
The Spidey sense is also updated. The writing itself is nonsense, but it's fun nonsense. In this movie, 3 college students build an atomic bomb.
It's the only way we can make our point. We have to build a bomb.
Now you're probably thinking, they built a bomb, not an atomic bomb, though, right? Well,
Well, let me put it to you this way. As far as we know, since 1945, everyone who has attempted to explode an atomic bomb has succeeded on the first try.
The character interactions are more artificial than the superpowers. At least they set up the love interest instead of tackling us with a confession at the end of the movie. They also do it in the most subtle way possible.
Somebody here wants to meet you.
As you can see, the girl will always be different from movie to movie. There isn't a single sequel here where the love interest is the same person. The villain is once again an old guy who wants to set off a bomb for money.
Remember, we're talking about an atomic bomb.
This one likes women.
I like women in bikinis.
Karate.
Yeah!
And money.
When we do get the plutonium, what are you gonna do with it?
Same as I do with everything. Just put it up for sale to the highest bidder.
Stanley didn't like the show.
Well, the funny thing about Spider-Man, I'm delighted it was on the tube, but it wasn't as good as it should have been, although it wasn't as bad as it could have been.
Well, I won't ask you if you had anything to do with it.
Well, I was supposedly the consultant, but they really didn't listen to me that much.
The Incredible Hulk returns, and this time he's got company. The King of Asgard himself.
He's real. He's as real as this counter, only bigger.
Bigger than the counter?
And ready to do whatever I ask, as long as it's legal.
Thor won't sell weed in Idaho. In this movie, Thor is a Pokemon. This guy named Donald, who found Thor in a mountain, summons him whenever it's convenient. Otherwise, Thor is in a shapeless void where he can't move or feel.
A place of mist and smoke, darkness, alone, as if in some terrible dream.
Somehow, they did it. Thor is the best character in all these movies. His laugh can cure cancer.
I tell you, the eyes would pop from my old comrade's head if they could see what I'm seeing in this godforsaken world of yours.
He's got pretty much the same personality as the Chris Hemsworth Thor. Whenever he shows up, the movie is fun.
Can you drive my car?
By Odin, I could try.
No, never mind.
I love how he calls Hulk a troll.
When the troll's upon you, you're a mighty fighter.
You're not bad yourself.
I know.
It's usually not a good idea to adapt a comic book into a movie without changing a few things, especially the early Stan Lee Jack Kirby comics, since the dialogue is really corny, the situations are often contrived, and the costumes are silly looking in real life. But after seeing so many movies that just ignore the comic book source material in favor of boring villains and repetitive plots, the Fantastic Four is the cure. It is basically a one-to-one comic adaptation on a low budget.
We were trying really as hard as possible to remain faithful, basically the Jack Kirby era.
It's charming how unashamedly silly it is.
Which way?
Bedroom, that way.
Expect trouble.
Dr. Doom is maniacally evil.
Or I'll wipe out New York City!
Laughing in his throne on a castle on the edge of a cliff. The casting is phenomenal. Tell me these aren't the characters from the comics.
Doom, it's clobbering time.
But there are a few moments where the goofiness becomes exhausting, especially with this little mole man who kidnaps a woman and calls her a queen.
You will bring me my queen! A queen! A queen!
I wanted Dr. Doom to shoot him. This is a rare movie that wasn't meant to be released. It was only greenlit so that the studio could keep the rights to the Fantastic Four property. So it was made really cheaply to save money, and really fast because there was a deadline to keep the rights.
There was no table read. There was no time for any of that.
There was no rehearsal before shooting, and usually there was really no rehearsal when we were shooting. It was primarily blocking.
But the cast and crew didn't know that no one would see it until after they finished making it.
The film's not going forward. It's not going to be released.
And I go, oh man, is it? He goes, yeah. I go, all right. Fuck.
The stupidest part is that it is genuinely enjoyable, and 1,000 times better than the 3 multi-million-dollar dog crap Fantastic Four movies that came out after the 2000s.
Hello, Dr. Ritter. Good to see me again.
Somehow, in the midst of all of this, there is The Incredible Hulk, a naturalistic drama exploring grief and impulse control. It's got real suspense and rounded characters. What is this? A real movie?
Don't make me angry. You wouldn't like me when I'm angry.
This is the pilot episode of the Incredible Hulk series. Unlike most of these movies, every part of this is intentional, from the cinematography to the music to the acting.
To tell you the truth, I had no acting experience. I did pumping iron, and then I came off from doing pumping iron. I was trained for the Miss Olympic competition. And I know that it came natural to me.
Lou Ferrigno's performance as the Hulk is great. He plays the character like a toddler throwing a temper tantrum. It also uses the limitations of not having CGI very creatively.
We went through all kinds of trauma trying to figure out how to get this to happen. We tried inflatable wetsuits, we tried everything you could think of, and we ended up finally just putting shirts that were too small on Lou and scoring the seams so that he could stretch.
It's very much grounded in reality. The movie is relentlessly trying to convince you that this could happen, almost to a fault.
George Burns told me once that when you're going to tell a lie, put as much truth in it as you can. I always try to remember that when I'm doing something that is one step beyond reality here. That's why all of their biochemical research and such was as detailed and articulated as it was.
It's always more important to believe in the emotional lives of the characters than the science of everything. It's clear that the director, Kenneth Johnson, didn't have much respect for the source material. I mean, he wanted to make the Hulk red instead of green.
I had a lot of arguments with Stan in the studio about why the Hulk was green. I said, what does that mean? He's the envious Hulk? You know, I said, the color of rage is red.
He still created something great out of it because of his love and talent for storytelling, drama, and filmmaking. The movie has several cinematic inspirations, from Frankenstein to 2001. It's an inspired, intentional gem in a pile of garbage. If you asked a 6-year-old to write a Spider-Man movie, you'd probably be barraged with absurd nonsense. The 1978 Japanese Spider-Man show is that nonsense on screen. It has the wild imagination of a kid playing superhero. The villain is the Lord of the Sea, a guy in a fish costume who shoots missiles out of his mouth. Spider-Man has a flying car that turns into a robot mech, like toys from the bin being added to the game. The continuity of the action scenes isn't very fluid. Oftentimes a shot will repeat itself several times, like a kid showing off on the monkey bars. The show is filled with spontaneous, manic ideas that are expertly crafted and constantly entertaining. There isn't a second of dead time. The action is so much fun. They use Spider-Man's powers very creatively, which is so impressive in a live-action context. I mean, crawling on the ceiling and shooting webs isn't easy to translate to reality. Just look at the other Spider-Man show. The true geniuses of Japanese Spider-Man is stunt coordinator Osamu Kaneda, who had to think up every action scene on the day they shot it, and stuntman Hirofumi Koga, who is the crazy guy who did all this, oftentimes climbing buildings without a rope. He also moves like Spider-Man, keeping his body close to the wall. Unlike the Hulk show, it isn't concerned with believability or realism. There are no scientific scientific explanations. It's about Spider-Man fighting bad guys. Both approaches work, but one of them is more fun to watch. This show will have the wackiest concepts imaginable and then find a way, any way, to make it work. Since the show didn't have a big budget, there's an ingenuity that always adds to the fun. This low-budget approach is so interesting to watch, especially in the age of glossy CGI. Today's superhero movies are so digitally polished. Japanese Spider-Man is not rendered on a computer, it's handcrafted. The creative process is right there on the screen. It's showing you that the thing stopping you from creating crazy fun stories isn't millions of dollars, but yourself. It's a huge slap in the face to all the other boring Marvel movies that thought striving for realism was important. You're making a superhero show, dummies. Make it wacky, make it funny, make it alive. It is the only thing here that I would rewatch and absolutely the only thing I'd recommend. Oh yeah, it also started the Transformers and Power Rangers.
亡き兄に復讐を誓う兄弟に心打たれる男スパイダーマン Spider-Man
These movies took the unlimited possibilities of the comic book and made lazy TV movies with the same mobster villain with a bomb.
He says he'll explode the bomb where it'll do the most damage.
He's got the bomb! The neutron bomb!
We're talking about an atomic bomb.
The big bomb.
Or bomb equivalent.
A chemical that will cause rapid aging.
I expect the laser to be fully operational upon my return.
How did you find out about my vibrator?
Miscast heroes and damsels in distress. And the President of the United States usually makes an appearance.
So these orders come from the President himself?
You must get the President out of the building.
And the President?
We'll send a small sample to the President.
Mr. President!
Oh, the President.
In each case, the budget was never the problem. It was bad writing and bland filmmaking.
He's demanding $1 billion immediately.
To assemble $1 billion US.
The $50 million demanded.
It's no wonder that Marvel didn't succeed on the big screen back then. They were just bad. There's only two I'd call good, and neither of them are technically movies. Marvel declared bankruptcy in 1996. The company then auctioned off the film rights to its most valuable characters. The Hulk went to Paramount, Spider-Man went to Sony, and X-Men, the Fantastic Four, and Daredevil all went to 21st Century Fox. What finally pulled Marvel out of the sewers was their first film under their own production company, Marvel Studios' Iron Man, which caught the eye of Disney, who bought Marvel for $4 billion in 2009. Now, it's the most profitable movie franchise ever. It's impossible to say for how much longer. I mean, despite the declining quality, they're still among the highest grossing movies of each year. Those superheroes are now all owned by Disney. There were a number of promising cancelled movies, including Wes Craven's Doctor Strange, James Cameron's Spider-Man, and Wesley Snipes' Black Panther movie. In alternate realities, they could have started the comic book boom earlier.